Previous video we looked at key signatures and in particular how they work in the major keys. What I want to look at in this video is the exact same key signatures but how they apply to minor keys, because for every major key you also have a corresponding minor key known as the relative minor. So here's how we work these out. We've got our key signatures again. Let's just look at our sharp ones first. So you've got no sharps and flats is C major, as we know from the previous video. One sharp is G major. We've got two sharps, which is D major, three sharps, which is A major, four, which is E major, scroll down a bit here, five sharps is B major, and six sharps then is F sharp major. Now, for each, like I said, major key, there's a corresponding minor key called the relative minor. And how we work that out is we count up, the relative minor key is always built from the sixth note of the major scale. So for example, in the key of C major, the C major scale is made up of the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. So if we want to find out what the relative minor of C major is, we just have to count. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the sixth note is A, and therefore the relative minor of C major is A minor. Oops, left at the end. So the relative major of C major is A minor, and we can do that with any of them. So let's take G major as another example. So if we're in the key of G major, just write out the notes of G. Now as you remember, G has one sharp. So let's have a look at which sharp that is. Okay, so G, as we can see, has one sharp right here, and that sharp is centered. The center of that little hashtag is right around the line F, so it's an F sharp. So G is going to have G, A, run through our musical alphabet, B, C, D, E, F, but it's F sharp, remember, so it's F sharp, and then we will be back to G. So if we want to find out the relative minor of the key of G, we do the exact same thing. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our relative minor of G will be E minor. So let's write that one in. E minor. Okay, let's have a look at the key of D major, just so we can work it out one more time, and see if you can work this out a bit quicker than me while I do it. So in the key of D major, we've got two sharps. The first one is centered on the line F, so it's F sharp. The second one is centered on the space C, so it will be C sharp. So we've got an F sharp and a C sharp. So we're going to write out our key of D major up here, and we have to have the notes F sharp and C sharp. So D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and C sharp. And now if we want to find out the relative minor of D, we do the exact same process. We just count up to the sixth note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So our relative minor of D is B minor, as you can see from up here. We circle a B. So it's B minor. And we can do this with any of the rest of them. I won't do them because it would take quite a long time. And I think the process is pretty clear at this point. So just to go through them, the relative minor of A major is F sharp major. Sorry, F sharp minor, I mean. The relative minor of E major is C sharp minor. The relative minor of B major is G sharp minor. And the relative minor of F sharp major will be D sharp minor. Where to go through that? Okay, so that's all our relative minors. That's just for the sharp keys though. Remember, we've also got the flat keys to worry about, so we're just going to go on and look at those as well. So Let's just go back to our original color. In our flat keys, if you remember, we had C major, which is no sharps or flats, regardless of which side of it we're looking at. One flat is F major. Two flats is B flat major. Three flats is E flat major. Then we've got A flat. And also then got D flat major. And then our last one after D flat is G flat major. Okay. So if we want to work out our relative minor keys of each of those, we do the exact same process. We just write out the key with the appropriate sharps and flats, in this case just flats, and then we work out what the relative minor is by counting up to the sixth note. So we've already done C major, we don't need to worry about that. We're going to look at F major next. So F major, if we were to write out the notes of it, I'll do it over here just so that you can see it and I don't have to keep scrolling up. F major, you've got the notes F, G, A. Now we would normally have B here, but as you can see in F major, the B note, that middle line B, has a flat symbol on it. So it's F, G, A, B flat, C, D, and E. And we want to work out what the relative minor is, so we just do it the exact same way as the sharp keys. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and when we get to 6, that sixth note is a relative minor. So the relative minor of F is D minor. Okay, so we've got D minor. And we can do that with absolutely any of these. So B flat major, relative minor would be G minor. We want to work out the relative minor of E flat is, it's C minor. We want to work out the relative minor of A flat, that's F minor. Relative minor of D flat is B flat minor. And then relative minor of G flat will be E flat minor. Okay, so that's all our relative minors to each of the corresponding major keys. So why is this important and how does it relate to the Leaving Cert melody question? Okay, so I've just put this one in here as an example. When you come to write your melody question, as you've probably seen from my previous videos, one of the very first things you need to look at is your key signature. That tells you what key you're in. It tells you that you need to end on do. It tells you that you need to modulate to a particular key. It tells you what notes you should be aiming for, your cadence points. It's really, really important stuff to know. So normally we would look at this one with our two flats and we would ascertain that it's in the key of B flat major. But that's not always the case, and this question here is one example of that. This time, instead of being in B flat major, it's in a different key which has the exact same key signature as B flat major, and that is G minor, the relative minor of B flat major. So sometimes, if you look at the key signature at the beginning, it's not actually in the major key you think it's in. It's in the relative minor of that major key. Okay, so if it has two flats, it could be in B flat. Sorry, it could be in B flat major or it could be in G minor. If, for example, it had, let's look at one up here. So let's say it had three sharps. It could be in A major, but it could also be in the relative minor of that. It could also be in F sharp minor. If it had three flats, it could be in E flat major, or it could be in its relative minor, which is C minor. So we need to be able to tell, is it in the major key or is it in the relative minor key? And here's how you do that. So as you know, well, if it's a melody that you're analyzing normally, if it was relating to one of your set works or something, one of the things you could really look at is what note does it end on, because as you know, our melody has to kind of end on do. So just scroll up just so you can see it. So if we're on if we've got two flats, and it can be in B flat major or G minor, we just need to look at where the melody ends. So for example, if you were analyzing this melody I've written here, you'd see that it ends on the note G. Therefore, G must be do, so it must be in G minor as opposed to B flat major, because if it was in B flat major it would end down here on a B flat, or maybe up here on a high B flat or something like that. But we've ended on G, so it must be in G minor. When it comes to actually writing your melody question, you're not going to have that though. You've only been given any of these bars here. You'll only have these first 4 bars. So you need to be able to work out just from these 4 bars whether it's in the relative major or the relative minor key. How you do that is the accidentals. These little things here. That's sharps or flats that are added in the melody rather than at the beginning of the key signature. If it's got accidentals, but if it has any at all, it's in the Leaving Cert melody question, it's almost certainly in the relative minor key, because relative minor key requires accidentals, the relative major doesn't. So here's how you work it out. In the relative minor key, note 7, so note 7 in the scale, just like these scales we wrote out here, but in the minor scale, note 7 in the scale will always be raised. So for example, here's how you work it out. We've got our B flat, we've got our B flat key signature, our G minor key signature. If we were to write out the notes of G minor, let's just test this. If we were to write out the notes of G minor, so that would be the exact scale of B flat, but we're starting on G and ending on G rather than starting on B flat and ending on B flat. So you need to go G, A, B flat, because it's got 1 in the key signature. C, D, it's also got an E flat in the key signature. Then F, and we'll be back to G. That note that we've got the accidental on, the note that's sharpened, if that's the 7th note of the minor scale, then we know that it's in the relative minor key, because what we do in the relative minor key is we raise the 7th note. So if the 7th note is a sharp, we know that it's in the minor key. So let's check if that F is the 7th note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it is. See, 7. It's the 7th note is sharpened. It's turned into an F sharp rather than just a normal F. So because that 7th note is sharpened when we write out the minor scale as opposed to the major scale, so we write it out from G to G rather than B flat to B flat, we then know that this must be in the minor key because the 7th note is raised. It's a little bit complicated, but after you've done it a couple of times with a couple of melodies, it makes a lot of sense and it's really easy to use. So that's just how we work it out, and we now know that we're in the minor key, so we need now, instead of following the rules of B flat major, we need to follow the rules of G minor, because we know we're in G minor. It's the same key signature as B flat major, but we got the 7th note of that minor scale, the one that starts on the relative minor note, the G note, and ends on it. The 7th note of that scale is raised. It's raised to an F sharp rather than an F natural as it would have been in the key of B flat major. Now that we know that, we need to learn the rules for writing in a minor key as opposed to in a major key, and that's what we're going to do in our next video.